Hey, welcome back on Sportsbook Betting Insight today, Wednesday, November 9th. Pauly and Teddy, big game breakdown. We'll get to the Thursday night game with the Browns and the Ravens, NBA game with the Rockets and the Spurs, and Friday night, only one college game, BC and Florida State. Deep dive, more NBA, what we think so far of the season and some adjustments that need to be made. Points per 100 possessions, offense, defense, we'll get to all that coming up. Kudos to you, my friend, for your call yesterday that Trump was live and the markets were off. This was a in-game wagering dream yesterday, Teddy. You could have had big prices on both candidates.
Yeah, and I don't want to just spend too much time talking about the election, but let's just start with this. Within a matter of about 3.5 hours yesterday, Clinton went from being a 10-1 favorite to Trump being a 10-1 favorite. Obviously, if you were involved in the betting markets and you were betting Donald Trump at any point, you probably did all right.
Yes, well done there. Okay, to college football, market moves coming up in a second. Plenty of money on Western Michigan. They went on the road against Kent State. This was a bad bet, bad conditions, and they struggled to get the win.
Yeah, they sure did. And not the same, I'm not going to say not the same Western team. It is the same Western Michigan team. Don't be fooled by that final score. They won by 16. This game was a dogfight. We saw Western get the blowout victory, win and cover last week on national TV. Didn't happen last night. Bad bet for those who bet the Broncos, up from -18 to -21.
And the drought is over. Eastern Michigan, bowl eligible for the first time since '87. A huge comeback against Ball State on the road.
Yeah, Eastern Michigan deserves a sports bit moment of silence. Let's just give him a few seconds. 1987 is a long, long time to go between bowl games.
Yeah, amen there. Bad for the books. The Hawks exercised the demons, Teddy. They win in Cleveland, and they took money.
Yeah, they sure did. Atlanta bet plus 8.5 to plus 7.5. And Kent Bazemore with the ice in his veins jumper in the final seconds to clinch it for Atlanta after Cleveland came storming back in the final couple of minutes. But a Hawks team that couldn't defend the three-point line in the postseason held the Cavs to 3 of 22 from beyond the arc last night. That was the difference in a tight game, but not a good result for the house. Obviously, nothing but Hawks money in most locations.
Yeah, NFL early week moves. Let's start with the Saints. Money coming in on the Saints. They saw what happened Sunday night on national TV as the Raiders ran all over the Broncos in their injury-riddled defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Broncos team that is now 2-3 in their last 5 ball games. And the markets are pretty high on New Orleans right now, considering the Saints have come back from the dead, winning 4 of their last 5. They're at 500 now. They are very much in playoff contention, and the offense is clicking. I mean, Denver's not scoring touchdowns on a consistent basis. New Orleans is. But not normally, you oftentimes see the better defensive team taking money throughout the course of the week. That's not the case with New Orleans right now. This team is hot in the betting markets. The wise guys like them against the Broncos.
Yeah, Rams money and under money against the Jets. Fitzpatrick questionable. What gives?
Yeah, I mean, Fitzpatrick is a big question mark here. If he doesn't go, it will likely be Bryce Petty. I'm surprised. Sometimes the books don't hang a number when a wide receiver has a hangnail injury. And here, we don't know if it's going to be Fitzpatrick or Petty, which in my mind is a significant difference from a power rating perspective. And yet, books have no problem hanging a number between the Jets and the Rams. LA taking the money with the QB questions, even though the Rams are in the midst of a 4-game skid of their own. What's happening in New York with, Fitzpatrick and Marshall yelling on the sideline and issues in the locker room. It sounds like a soap opera, which can happen in New York when things start to go south. But the markets are certainly reacting to that.
Yes, no surprise here. Money on the Falcons at Philly, and also money coming against the Vikings. Redskins bet up to 3 at home. Vikings have lost 3 in a row, and they're a mess on offense.
Yeah, and of course, Washington, a team, we talked a lot about Oakland's penalty problems. The Redskins lead the league in automatic first down penalties on defense, which is, your nightmare scenario for any defensive squad. But another issue for Minnesota, we've talked a lot about the offensive line. And last week, of the 40 pass attempts that Sam Bradford took, only 15 of them traveled more than 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. It's all dink and dunk because they can't protect Bradford. I think they had 8 wide receiver screens in that ballgame, which tells you how worried they are about protecting their quarterback. But Let's also not forget that the Vikings defense collapsed in the final minute and then in overtime of that ballgame. Minnesota got their first 5 wins of the year largely based on defense. Not largely, nearly entirely based on defensive acumen and defensive playmaking. The offense isn't scoring. The defense isn't getting the job done the way they were earlier in the season or creating turnovers the way they were. The Redskins coming off a bye. All of these factors leading to Washington money against Minnesota in early week action.
Arizona up to 13.5 against the 49ers. And, hey, the Cowboys haven't lost on the road. What, they've won 7, 8 in a row? They money coming in on Dallas at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Dallas lost opening day to the Giants, and they haven't lost since. But with Arizona, I mean, remember, Jimmy Vaccaro said it on Tuesday's show. We talked about it on Monday's show. The books took an absolute beating on that Saints 49ers game last week. The sharps were on the Saints. The squares were on the Saints. Nobody is betting San Francisco right now. So this line with Arizona, from 12.5 up to 13.5, you can expect it to go to 14. It's not coming down. There is no group out there that's like, what's the buy price on San Fran? There is one. As for Dallas, I'm not so shocked that this line came off of the 3. I'm a little bit surprised that it opened at 3, considering how poorly the Steelers looked last week and how injury-riddled Pittsburgh has been. I mean, they've been without their best quarterback, running back, wide receiver, offensive lineman, defensive lineman, linebacker, and member of the secondary for at least one game this season at all of those positions. But from a spot standpoint, this line's not going to go down much further. I'm sure the market's like this spot for the Steelers coming off the loss to Baltimore last week.
And Monday Night Football, the Bengals are in New York to take on the Giants, and a little Bengals money here, down to +2.
Yeah, and again, the Giants haven't been a team that's been particularly, the markets have been enamored with thus far. There was anti-Giants money coming last week with Philadelphia, and the Giants got the win and cover. I don't know if it was a right side winner, but with Cincy coming off the bye, a team that underachieved early, the market's certainly looking for better results out of Cincy over the back half of the campaign.
All right, let's get to big game breakdown up next. 2 football games, and the Rockets and the Spurs in the association. And we'll do a deep dive with the NBA. And let's keep it going with the play of the day coming up on Sportsbit. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Do your research before you bet. Check out our ratings guide to see which books have the best ratings and sign-up bonuses. Open up several accounts. Shop for lines at SBRodds.com. Always be ahead of the game.
Back on Sportsbit, Pauly and Teddy. Time for Big Game Breakdown. As always, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Thursday Night Football, NFL, Browns and the Ravens. Ravens 10, 45 the total. The Browns are awful. I don't know if they win a game. Let's start here. Hugh Jackson knew it was going to be bad. But was it going to be this bad? The offense stinks. The defense can't stop anybody. More on that coming up. He's going with Kessler at quarterback again. Not the usual co-speak of the best chance to win, Teddy. He's essentially saying, let's see what the kid has, because if he can't get it done again, we know we have to draft another QB.
Yeah, I mean, normally the coach is going to give you the coach speak. Oh, Cody Kessler's going to give us our best chance to win. Hugh Jackson, not even kidding. He's like, look, obviously, the fact that we can't throw deep is not giving us the chance to score many points, because sometimes I think those plays have been there to be made. Remember, they got Corey Coleman back in the lineup. They have Terrell Pryor. They have 2 legitimate downfield weapons to go along with, Barnish at tight end. I mean, but whether it's a quarterback or whether it's receiver or whether it's a protection, we all have a hand in that, and we all can, and we can all do better. So I'm not just going to lay it at Cody's feet. Obviously, he's got to improve in some areas, but I think our receivers have got to improve. I think our protection has got to improve, and we've just got to improve overall as an offensive football team. So we know the offense stinks for Cleveland. What about the defense, Pauly?
Well, they've allowed 24 points at least in every game. Now he has to give a vote of confidence to defensive coordinator Ray Horton. Quote, Ray's always searching for ways to do things differently and creatively. We understand he has a lot of young guys over there. Sometimes those things, as you're trying them, they don't work out the way they want them to. I'm not going to tell you guys that Ray hasn't tried to be creative, because I know without hesitation he has. Sometimes it doesn't bring success. Sometimes that can hurt you. Everyone's concerned about the defense and what they're doing. I think our staff is working extremely hard in the best way they can. We're not getting the results any of us want, and I think we're not going to run from that. We know things need to get better. At the same time, I know that these guys are doing everything they can to help our players, end quote. Then you have the Ravens, and when you're a Super Bowl quarterback, Super Bowl winning QB, you don't want to look up and see guys like Bortles and Keenum ahead of you in the passer rating charts. I mean, Flacco made one play last week, the 95-yard touchdown to Wallace. That was it.
No, Flacco didn't make any plays last week. Wallace
made the play.
Last week. That should have been a 10-yard completion and no touchdown. Instead, it turned into a 95-yard touchdown pass because one receiver made one play. In the other offensive plays, besides that single 95-yard touchdown pass, the Ravens gained 2.8 yards per play. Okay? That's about half the league average, just so you know. And that came after the bye. That came after saying, all right, Flacco, morning wag, receivers, offensive line, healthy. Let's everyone get on the same page and get going. You know, Flacco ranks number 29 in the NFL in QB rating. And, I mean, the running game's not there. They wanted to run against the Steelers. Terrence West, Kenneth Dixon combined for 24 carries, 34 net yards. You know, John Harbaugh, brutally honest after the game, quote, the things that were holding us back in this game were across the board, a little bit in every area. We've just got to get better. So, I mean, the Browns stink on offense. They stink on defense. The Ravens stink on offense, too. And that's not a team I'm comfortable laying double digits.
And the passer rating charts, Bortles 27th, Keenum 28th, Flacco 29th. Well, the Browns going to get a win?
Yes. I will say they will get one. I'll call Cleveland for a 1-15 team.
They
win this game.
Will Hugh Jackson survive an 0-16 season?
Yes, he must. He must survive an 0-16 season. If they fire Hugh Jackson, they're just foolish.
Okay.
We like Hugh Jackson. It's not his fault.
I'll agree with you there. NBA now. Tonight, ESPN, Rockets and the Spurs. San Antonio 7.5, 10.5 the total. Home teams, favorite type series. Last 10 meetings, 9-1 straight up, favorite 7-3. And now the Spurs are getting healthy. Parker back, and they expect Green back too.
Wait, I mean, the 9-1 against the spread in the last 10 meetings for the home team. So it's been a home series. The favorite's been good, 7-3 against the number. I mean, it's not particularly meaningful, but I know you guys love those trends and angles. And, you know, last year, 4 meetings, the Rockets won on Christmas Day, and then the Spurs beat them the final 3 times, all by double-digit margins. 2 of them were pretty ugly blowouts. I mean, it's been a fairly successful road trip. The Rockets already playing their longest road trip of the season. Only 5 games. They got a handful of 5-game trips, but this matches their longest road trip. This is the finale. They've won 2 on this road trip already. Of course, those 2 wins came against the Knicks and the Wizards, 2 of the weaker opponents they faced, and the 2 losses coming to Atlanta and Cleveland, both by 8 or more, the 2 stronger teams that they faced. So it's a Rockets squad that is battle-tested on the road. They haven't been able to beat good teams. They are averaging 13 made three-pointers per game, and the Spurs not in the top 10 defending the three-pointer so far. The James Harden quote, I think, speaks volumes about what the Rockets are trying to do under Mike D'Antoni right now. Quote, this offense gives me a lot more space, a lot more room for me to get to the basket and for me to find guys. You have to respect our shooters. Spurs
have lost their last 2 home games. Jazz got them 106-91, and then they were blown out. That game was over early Saturday against the Clippers, 116-92. Just the second time in Pop's 21-year tenure in San Antonio that an opponent scored 70 points or more in the half. What the hell happened here, Teddy?
Well, here's what Pop said, quote, you just see what you did well in every game, see what you did poorly, and go practice and move on to the next game. Spending time wondering why is a waste of time. Kawhi Leonard, quote, they got away from us in the first quarter, mainly on transition baskets, when they leaked out and we didn't get back. But we didn't do well on offense either. And our 2 losses, our defense in the first quarter has hurt us. We feel like we've given 2 games away. So we got San Antonio coming in off a home loss, off 2 home losses in their last 3 ball games. But the Spurs team that's not used to losing at home, they weren't happy with how they played last time out. That is not a team, Pauly, I'm looking to stand in front of off a defeat.
Yes, very good. Last game, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. College football, Friday night, Boston College and Florida State. Seminoles 21, 48.5 the total. You got to worry about motivation here. Already 3 ACC losses before November 1st. Fifth-year seniors had only lost 3 September-October games across their careers. They were lucky they beat NC State.
Sure, and this is the first game after really being eliminated from any conference. Oh, in that first game, after being eliminated from any conference hope, they were lucky. They were outplayed at NC State. They escaped with a 4-point win. Florida State outrushed 165-71. First downs 31-20 for the Wolfpack. So we're talking about a short week off back-to-back big Saturday night games in which the defense was on the field for more than 80 plays in each contest. I'm worried about this Seminole squad right now. They're not a team I'm really excited about laying 3 touchdowns with.
Yeah, here's a great quote from Fisher on getting these kids up and ready for the game. Quote, "You have no idea. Like I tell our kids each year, you commit. We expect to win here, but you got to go do it. Coaches, we've got to do it every year. You can't take anything for granted. Winning's hard. So many good teams, so many good games. Even if you're having great success, you have no idea how on edge we are and how close we really know as coaches how close it is to be going the other way. Even these teams right now sitting at 8-0, 9-0, how close some of them could be 6-2, 5-3, and that's the way it is every year, and that's how it's going to be." End quote. Boston College, I mean, no chance against Louisville and Clemson too. Maybe if they show up and they want to do this, maybe Florida State can name their score.
Well, I mean, BC's hung tough with Florida State each of the last 2 years. 2014, Florida State is minus 16.5, 20-17 final score. Last year, Florida State's minus 9.5 at Boston College, 14-0 final. So, yeah, BC got slapped by Louisville. They got punched by Clemson. They couldn't match up at all against their speed at the skill positions. But there's one big difference between Louisville and Clemson compared to Florida State. Florida State doesn't have the dual threat QB. DeAndre Francois, only 89 rushing yards all season. He's not Lamar Jackson, and he's not Deshaun Watson in terms of his running threat. So that, to me, is a big difference between how BC can defend Florida State, where they failed against the Cardinals and Tigers.
Up next, the deep dive, NBA leaders and losers so far early in the season, and we look to stay hot with the play of the day and Money Time. Coming up on Sportsbook, betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Hey, back on Sportsbook, Pauly and Teddy, the deep dive. NBA leaders and losers. Not about just wins and losses and ATS covers. It's how the teams are getting to where they are that you need to focus on. Offensive points per 100 possessions. Cleveland #1, no surprise. Hats off again to Brad Stevens. All the injuries, no Horford. They're #2. Come on.
Yeah, what surprises me on these numbers, again, for early season NBA, what we're doing today, we're going to go through the stats and talk about who's overachieved, who's underachieved early on, and see if we can find some value on some of these squads that we're talking about, overachievers or underachievers, moving forward over the next couple of weeks. So we talk about the offense. There really are no surprises on this list among the best offensive teams early on. Maybe the Bulls. I don't think people thought that Chicago would necessarily be in this type of sync with Rondo and Wade, giving them a new starting backcourt. But we are talking about 2 seasoned vets. The one that surprises me is Golden State. I'm telling you, I thought they would have their issues early on. And in some ways they have against the spread. As have the Cavs, mind you. This is not a list of teams that have been great ATS so far. By and large, they've been mediocre at best. But it's a Golden State team that has found a little bit better offensive rhythm over the last couple of days. And as you mentioned, Boston, with the Celtics at #2, despite all of those early season injuries, got to give Brad Stevens some credits there.
Yeah, the Bulls are a fluke. That won't continue. They won't continue to shoot the ball like that. You remember the days when Memphis would grind it out and play physical defense. Not anymore. Not this team.
Well, I mean, this when we go through the offensive stats, you look at the bottom of the NBA, you have Miami, you have Orlando, New Orleans, Memphis, Philadelphia. Again, no huge surprises on that list, with perhaps the exception of the Grizzlies, a team that was fairly offensively efficient despite their slower pace. That hasn't been the case in early season play this year. But, you look at that list of the bottom offensive team, and Philadelphia laps the league once again as a squad struggling on that end of the floor. These are teams that were expected to be mediocre to bad, and so far they've all been mediocre to bad.
Great. A tip of the cap to Doc Rivers. Remember what Portland did to Golden State in the second round of the playoffs when they got whatever they want. Now, they lost in 5, but those were high-scoring games. And remember how the Clippers shut them down early in the series until they had the key injuries. Look at defense, points per 100 possessions. Clippers #1.
Oh, yeah, and it's not even close. And it's not just about DeAndre Jordan protecting the rim for the Clippers. They're also number 3 in the NBA in steal. I saw a great Doc Rivers quote the other day saying, our hands are everywhere right now. They're deflecting passes. You say, who's the toughest, who's the team for the Warriors that's going to challenge them in the West? Certainly right now, and based on these numbers, the Clips are the team to watch out for. I like the chemistry of that squad. Their core has been together for a number of years now, despite the injuries, and they come out of the gate playing defense at a championship level.
Yeah, at the bottom, you got Sacramento, Houston, Indiana, Boston, and New York. How about the Knicks? Hornacek turns the D over to Kurt Rambis already.
Yeah, here's the quote. I just felt we're probably better off with just one voice. So Kurt, we're going to have him be the voice on defense. Apparently, what had been going on early was that multiple assistant coaches were giving defensive coaching advice to players, and there wasn't a consistent message. Of course, when you're allowing more than 110 points per 100 possessions, that's good. But again, we talked about Boston's offense. Look at their defense. Not good. Indiana, point spread underachiever early on. Not good. You know, with Sacramento, you can make the case, all right, they've had a real tough schedule early on. When you play 5 and 7 night on the road in the first 2 weeks of the season, that's a tough way to open the campaign. And, of course, the Rockets, we already know they're not going to play any defense. But that's what, the Mike D'Antoni system.
Sell the Knicks. Sell. Phil's now unhappy that they're not running enough triangle.
Yeah.
That doesn't work in today's basketball, Phil. Get a clue. You need Jordan and Pippen to run that garbage, or Shaq and Kobe. Everyone shoots the threes. Give me a break.
Stop with that garbage. That garbage won how many titles?
Oh my God! You can't run that kind of basketball now. You had Kobe and Shaq and Jordan and Pippen.
I know.
You can't run a triangle offense now.
I don't disagree.
What's wrong with you?
That being said, Phil Jackson's got 10 rings on his fingers. And I'm not going to say, no, Phil, no, you can't do what you want to do. Carmelo Anthony is not Michael Jordan. Derrick Rose is not Kobe Bryant. And that's the issue that the Knicks are having, as much as they're not, playing in Jackson's preferred style.
Yeah, I think he's got 11 rings. In any event, how about the rebounding?
He does have 11 rings. You're right. Rebounding. Bulls, number 1 in the NBA. And again, Chicago being that surprise team that the wise guys all hated. And here they are dominating the glass. Denver and Oklahoma City. The Nuggets, a team you definitely want to watch out for in this regard. They are, I like Mike Malone, and I like what he's doing with the Nuggets early on, even though they lost a heartbreaker last night. Still got the money in that ballgame. But the two big men, Nurkic and Jokic, are taking care of business in the low post for the Nuggets. And no surprise, Oklahoma City, San Antonio, and the disappointing Minnesota T-Wolves. And, of course, Kenneth Faried's another guy on Denver. He's getting at, 8.5 boards per game, despite getting only 22 minutes of playing time off the bench. He's always been instant energy. That hasn't changed this season.
At the bottom, look at this. Here's the Knicks again. Terrible on defense and rebounding both. What's the deal there? And how does Anthony Davis feel? He leads the league in total rebounds, and his team's dead last.
Yeah, well, Davis tied for number 3 in the league in total rebounds. But, yeah, I mean, the Pelicans are really rough right now. We cashed a ticket with them the other night at plus 17, only because it was plus 17. They're not a team that I have on my I want this squad. And when you have Anthony Davis and you're dead last in the NBA in rebounding percentage, that's an issue. For the Knicks, I mean, when you're terrible on defense and terrible on rebounding, to me, that speaks lack of heart for New York. I'm not convinced that Jeff Hornacek era is going to go any better than any of the other recent eras for James Dolan's New York Knickerbockers.
All right, winner with the Pelicans. Money time, play of the day, an update. A 22-8 run, 29-12-1 on the football season. We're going to back to the association. You're on fire. You take it away. What are you doing?
Let's go with game number 709, the Philadelphia 76ers plus 12. I don't like Philly at home. I do like Philly catching big prices on the highway. And this is more about a bet against Indiana than anything. Teams ranked number 28th in defensive efficiency cannot and should not be laying doubles. Here's the Paul George quote. Quote, "We're all out of whack. There's no trust. There's no chemistry. There's no belief. We're just kind of just lifeless right now." Yeah, 76ers plus a dozen. That's our play of the day.
Yes, excellent work there. Fun show. That was a money quote. We're back Thursday to recap the association, and we'll get the college previews going on Saturday. Not a great card, but there's some key games to discuss coming up on Sportsbook. We'll talk to you then. Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy. Thanks for watching.